Hey guys, welcome to Retro Crisis, and in today's video I'll be looking at this, the Anbernic RG40XX, which is a retro gaming portable handheld system. Now before I continue with the video, for full transparency I want to make super clear, a company called LitNext reached out to me. They said they wanted to send me one of these so I could make a video on it. Now my personal gaming device is a Steam Deck. This is what I do all my modern gaming on and all my retro emulation on. To me the Steam Deck is the perfect handheld gaming device. But I totally understand that not everybody has Steam Deck money. Not everybody can spend £300 to £400 on a gaming handheld. This Anbernic device is not £300 or £400. It's not even £200. It's not even £100. I think on LitNext's website it's going for like $85, which is probably around, I don't know, 75 to 80 UK pounds, I'm guessing off the top of my head. Anyway, I'm going to give you my full honest thoughts on this. I've been using this for probably just under 2 weeks, and I kind of repackaged it just for this video so you could see what the unboxing experience is like. So the device comes with this kind of foam protector thing to keep the device safe. This is available in 3 color variants, so you can get it in pure black, you can get it in blue, or you could get it in this kind of Game Boy classic kind of color scheme. And this is the one I chose. I actually quite like the beige gray and the maroonish purplish Game Boy buttons. Now let's quickly pull this out. The first thing I noticed when I used it was just how heavy the device feels. At first glance I fully expected it to be some kind of cheap plastic kind of device, but it's got a nice smooth finish. It's kind of like a rubber texture almost, but not quite. Now let's do a quick tour of the device. On the face you have the start and select buttons, you have your BA and YX action buttons, 2 analog sticks, just like a PlayStation 2, and you have a D-pad, just like pretty much every console out there. And you have this button here, which is kind of a menu button. So whenever you're in an emulator, if you just push the menu button, it'll take you back to the emulator's submenu. And on the top, we have L1, L2, R1, and R2. We have power button here. You have the volume rocker, so you can increase and decrease the volume. You have a little charging light. You got a USB-C connector. So if you have a USB-C phone charger, you can plug that in here. And you've got a reset button. And you got this little socket here, which is actually really cool. So it's a mini HDMI, and what you can do is you can plug your mini HDMI here, and you can plug the other side to your TV or your monitor, and you can output your video to the big screen. Once you've outputted it to your big screen, you can actually Bluetooth link your PlayStation or Xbox controller to this. So this can sit by your TV and you can sit on your couch. On the rear there are no buttons, and that's fine. And on the bottom of the device we have a headphone port, and you have 2 speakers, one on the left, one on the right, and you'll notice there are 2 sets of SD card readers. So the one on the left is the SD card you'd use for your operating system, and the one on the right would be used for your games. I personally did not expect this. I think it's genius. So the operating system I've just left in the device full time, not even bothered taking it out. I don't think I've even needed to update the operating system. And the one on the right, you can pop it out, plug it into your laptop or PC, and then you can load it up with games of your choice. When I got this device, it actually came preloaded with like a whole bunch of games. I've not even had to add anything to it. So if you are useless on a computer and don't know how to download ROMs, this could be a dream for you because it kind of comes preloaded with a whole bunch of stuff. Now let's turn it on, and you can do that just by pressing the power button here, and the green light goes on and you see the Anbernic logo load up. Right, so off the bat, as you can see, it's actually very easy to hold. I'm a big fan of this kind of Game Boy Advance slash PSP style kind of layout. I prefer it to the original Game Boy style layout. I think this is much more comfortable. If you're used to using a Nintendo Switch, this is going to feel like second nature to you. Right, so the first thing you notice when you load this up is the screen is bright and it's very clear, considering it's 4 inches. And the thing that shocks the hell out of me is it's only 640 by 480 pixels, yet the screen is actually razor sharp. You'd never tell that it was only a 480 pixel display. Like, I've pushed my eyes right up against the screen and you can barely discern the pixels from each other. The screen is actually way better than I expected it to be. Right, so let's have a quick look at some of the options. So the first one is Game Room, then we have RA Game, which means RetroArch Game. We have App Center, Favorites, History, Search, Settings, and you're back to Game Room. So if you go into Game Room, press A, and then you can choose which card you want to load your games from, because technically you can load your ROMs onto both SD cards. So let's go to 2, and here you can choose whichever system you want to load up. So we've got PSP, PS1, vertical arcade games, you have your Capcom Play System 1, 2, and 3, Neo Geo, Final Burn Neo, which is arcade games, MAME, which is also arcade games, Game Boy Advance, NES, Super Nintendo, Sega Master System, Mega Drive, Drive, 32X, Game Boy Color, Game Boy, PC Engine, Neo Geo Pocket Color, Game Gear, and WonderSwan Color. And if you want to load one of these games up, let's just go down to GBA, and then you'll see a list of games, and you'll see a nice little thumbnail next to each game. Now, I'm not a big fan of how these games are named, but I think that's just the way they come. You can technically just pop the SD card out, put it into your computer, label them properly, pop the SD card back in, and then, you know, the games will be labeled a bit better. But let's just take Sonic Advance for the meantime. Press A to load it up. As you can see, the screen is super bright. Let's go to English. So as you can tell, the game just, you know, looks super smooth. And let's have a quick look at it in action, just so you can see the evidence. Gosh, I've not played this in a while, but you get the picture there. So all the buttons on the controller work as they would on a Game Boy Advance, but if you want to go to the system menu, just press this button here and it'll take you into the sub menu for the game. So here you can exit game, load and save states, restart, you know, add a fancy video filter if you want. But for now, I'm just going to exit game, and it takes a little while to go back to the menu, and let's press B to go back. So that's the game room. Now, if you want to explicitly use RetroArch to load a game, just go to RA game and repeat the same process, select your disk, and here you'll notice the menu's a little bit different looking. And here it's the same kind of thing. You can select whichever system you want to load up. But what you will notice is there's a few other additional systems that appear. So for example, you have Naomi, Mega CD, PC Engine CD, Pico 8. I think that's the Pico 8. The Pokemon Pocket, Virtual Boy, and you also have ports, which is very interesting, and I'll get back to that in a minute. So if you want to load a game using RetroArch, it's the same kind of thing. So let's just let's try Game Boy Advance again, and let's just go back to Sonic Advance again, and I'll show you what the key difference is. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is the screen is dark. I found a fix for it. So what you do is you just press the M button here. Right, it takes you to the RetroArch menu, and then what you do is just press B to go back, go to Settings, and go to Video, and then go down to Filter, and for some reason the default setting is darken. I'm not quite sure why, but if you just go to Remove Video Filter and then press B, and then let's go back to Main Menu, Quick Menu, and Resume, you'll notice the screen is bright again. Now, there are a couple of things I would recommend changing. So at the moment it shows the Game Boy Advance bezel here, which is pretty cool. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm not a big fan of that. So I'm just going to go to M and go to on-screen display and display overlay. I'm going to turn that off. Let's go back to the game, and now that's gone. Now I've got the FPS counter here enabled at the top, so you can kind of see that's running at a full 60 frames a second. And I think there's actually if you zoom in close, you can see there's actually some kind of like dot matrix filter applied. So if we just press M to go back to RetroArch, go B, let's go to shaders. Okay, looks like shaders are automatically enabled. Turn that off, go back to the game, and there we go, the shader's gone. So the screen's gone a little bit brighter. If you are into shaders, I believe this uses GL SL shaders rather than slang shaders. And to be honest, that's fairly common for kind of retro handhelds like this. And yeah, so if you want to use shaders or save states or rewind and various things like that, so you've got a full fat version of RetroArch essentially running on here. So if you did want to add your own custom shaders, you could do that, but they will be limited to the GL shaders. Right, so if you want to exit the game, you can just go down to quit. This menu button will be your friend. You'll be dipping in and out of it quite a bit. Yeah, and using RetroArch is my preferred method to play games on this. Right, so let's quit out of this game. So that's a kind of a rough overview on how to kind of load games in here, how to remove those darken filters, how to remove overlays. And to be honest with you, when it comes to 2D games in here, it's perfect. It's a great device for 2D games. So if you're using 8-bit, 16-bit, anything 2D pixel-based is perfect. It just runs well. Now, where you run into problems is if you want to play 3D games. Now, technically, this can play 3D games. You can play your PSP games on here, but they don't run so well. And it's a bit hit and miss. So let's load up PSP. Let's go to God of War Chains of Olympus. Now, Chains of Olympus is the kind of PSP game you use to test any emulator or core, because it's incredibly demanding. If you want to test your gaming hardware, load up Chains of Olympus. I've left the frame counter on in the top corner. You can see it's currently running at 30. So you can see that I've enabled the frame counter on the top. And there we can already, you're already dipping down to 25, 22, even the 20s. It's not ideal, but then again, God of War Chains of Olympus is one of the most demanding PSP games. So if we try another game that might be a little less demanding, we might have better luck. Now you're going to see me suck at Street Fighter. So something like this, which is 2D and a little less demanding than something like God of War, you're going to notice it's going to run significantly better. Apologies in advance. I'm not the best Street Fighter player out there, but whatever. Oh gosh, he's destroying me. Okay, there we go. I'm dying. He does not like me. Oh goodness. Come on, one more hit. There we go. Oh, I won. There we go. Something that's just occurred to me is this game is kind of stretched a little bit. It doesn't look so great. So let's go to the menu. Let's go down to settings. Whoop. Menu, settings. Now, where it's got rendering resolution, best to leave that to 1. I would not increase that more than 1. It's not, there's just no point. Leave that full screen, leave VSync on. Let's go to display, layout, and effects. What is this? So you can enable stretch, and that'll fill up the whole screen. Come out the menu. And you'll notice the screen is kind of filled up now. And it does look a bit better, to be honest. Anyway, let's come out of this game before I embarrass myself even further. And go down to exit menu and exit. So using 3D games on here is a little bit hit and miss, and the same applies to the N64, Dreamcast, not so much to PS1. PS1 seems to be faring a little bit better. I think it might be due to the 1GB RAM the device has and the 1.5 GHz processor. Honestly, it's not the most advanced hardware. You can dip in and out of 3D games if you want to. It really excels with 2D games. So if you want to play 2D console games or 2D arcade games, you've got the dream handheld here. Anyway, let's come out of this. Something else I want to show you, which I thought was actually quite incredible, is if you go to RA Game, go to your second SD card and go all the way down to ports, press A. Now this is where you get some really interesting PC games. So you have stuff like Cave Story, Celeste, Command & Conquer Red Alert, Grand Theft Auto 3, Owlboy, Quake, Shovel Knight, and Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. And these are like PC games, and somehow they've managed to get them onto this Anbernic device. And guess what? They run amazingly well. So whilst the loading times are slower, the actual gameplay is near perfect, from what I've tried at least. And another thing I forgot to mention, this has built-in Rumble, so if you like your DualShock or your Rumble packs, the Anbernic has that built into it too. And here you go, you've got Shredder's Revenge. And let's go to App Center. Now, if you have MP3s or movie files, you can chuck them on the SD card and you can play your music through the music app. You can play your movies through the video app. And you can even add ebooks to here if you feel like you want to do that. And let's come out. Any games you've added as your favorite, you can go to favorite section and all your favorites will be here. But something that is very useful is this search functionality. So if you go in there, if you type in the name of a game, say Street Fighter, it will literally search every single folder on your device and find all the versions of, whichever game you're looking for. So here you can see there's a crap load of Street Fighter games on here, and you can search through them. So it kind of saves you going through each individual emulator core looking for your games. You can just do it from here, which is very useful and saves a lot of time. And one last thing I want to show you, if you just go to the settings menu, and if you just go to LED settings, go here. Currently LED is set to off, but if you turn it on, you'll notice your joysticks light up. And if you go to mode, you can select which type of lights you want. So right now I've got it set to chase, which means, depending on which direction I push it in, the light will kind of go in that direction. But you can have a variety of settings. So maybe you go to breathe, light, fast, select that, go back. And here you'll notice it starts kind of pulsating. And if you go to colors, depending on whichever mode you've selected, you can actually define which color you want to make these lights, so you can customize it there. Now, my closing thoughts, as I've already mentioned, for 2D games, this is a dream device, and it's actually pretty cheap, like, $80 for this device for your 2D games. So if you want to play all your Super Nintendo, Mega Drive, Mega CD, Neo Geo, your arcade games from the 80s and 90s, Metal Slug, Street Fighter, all that stuff. This is a dream device, and this is tiny. This is a Nintendo Switch screen, and this is the Anbernic. The entire Anbernic fits within the Nintendo Switch screen. That's how small this is. Anyway, let's get rid of this. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, LITNXT, or LitNext, however you pronounce it, did not tell me to make a good review or a bad review. They just asked me to take a look at this. I'm guessing they just felt so good about the product, they felt confident enough to just give this to me blindly and ask me to take a look at it. If you want something that will just fit in your pocket, something that's the size of your phone to play some 2D games, I cannot think of a device that's better than this for the price that they're asking for. Personally, I would turn these LED joysticks off because, in my view, it's just a waste of battery. I imagine it's something children would like, but for me, I think it's stupid. Turn that off, save your battery. It does come with a 3200 milliamp hour battery, which gives you around 6 hours of battery life. So you should be good to go. One more thing before I leave you to it is if you do turn it off, don't just turn it off there because it still means it's left on. Go to settings, go right to the bottom and go to shutdown. That's how you want to turn this thing off. And that ensures you're not wasting your battery. Anyway, if you do want to buy one of these, I'll leave a link in the description below. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them as best as I can. This has been Retro Crisis. Thank you for watching.